The 2023-24 NHL regular season has now come to a close. We're going to once again play around the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator tool and take a look and see now, based on the real final standings, who would win the first overall NHL selection in the 24 draft. We will follow that up by a top 10 mock draft as well, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, it's time once again to do an NHL Draft Lottery simulation, except this time we know the standings are not going to change in the future. Usually I love playing around with this tool courtesy of tankathon.com. So I usually do this periodically throughout the season. If you're newer to the channel, if you look back, you'll see usually about every 3-4 weeks or so as the standings change, we'll run a simulation and say, as of today, if this were happening, who would have the first overall pick, and see how things turn out courtesy of the simulator. Well, now we know these standings are final. We know the San Jose Sharks have by far the best odds at winning the first overall pick, and we know these standings are not going to change. So we're going to hop onto the computer. We're going to look at tankathon.com NHL Draft Lottery Simulation Tool, simulate the lottery to see who would come out on top and pick first overall, have a shot at Macklin Celebrini in the 24 NHL Draft. And then from there, we will take a look at the top 10 selections from there. We will do further mock drafts further into the offseason before the actual NHL draft, but for today we're going to stick with the top 10. So we're going to hop onto the computer, simulate the draft, and I'll give you my selections. Okay, so here we go. We're on the draft lottery simulation tool here on tankathon.com. So just to take a quick look first here at the odds and the standings, if you will. So of course the season's over, as I mentioned. So as you can see, San Jose has the best odds. They finished 32nd. So as you can see over here on the far right, they have a 25.5% chance at first overall. They have an 18.5% chance winning. Now, of course, there's 2 spots up for grabs, 1 and 2 in the draft. So they have the odds one is their total chance to win either of them, and then of course the other odds is the chance of landing first overall. So of course, in the San Jose point of view, there's lots of teams here, including teams that are below Buffalo, from Philly down to St. Louis. If they win, they can't go all the way to first anyway. So it does increase their chances of winning here a little bit. So San Jose has the best chance. Chicago next, then Anaheim, Columbus, Montreal, Arizona, or should we say Utah now, Ottawa, Seattle, Calgary, New Jersey, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Minnesota, San Jose by way of Pittsburgh, Detroit, and St. Louis. So in these cases here, you can only move up 10 spots. So the Flyers, Wild, Sharks via Pittsburgh, Detroit, and St. Louis, if they win, they'll move up 10 spots, but they don't get first overall. So let's simulate the draft lottery here, and let's take a look and see who would be lucky enough to get this. I mean, we've done 6 other videos throughout the course of the entire regular season, and every time I've simulated this, we've had a different winner. We've had the Montreal Canadiens win. We've done it where the Flames have won, the Sabres, the Blue Jackets, I believe Chicago, and I think the Sharks were the other one, if I remember correctly. So let's take a look here and see if we get a repeat, or one of these teams that haven't won during our simulations gets it for the first time here today. Let's go. Bam, we have the Anaheim Ducks. Holy jumpins. Can you imagine the Ducks with that loaded talent pool that they already have getting Celebrini? Wow. So the Ducks get first overall. The Blackhawks get second overall. So the San Jose Sharks, even though they have the best odds, drop 2 spots down to number 3. And that bumps down them, and then everybody else kind of falls in line here, because obviously the Sharks were the only team that's been bumped out, where Chicago was already had the second best odds, and they won that lottery. So Columbus, Montreal, Arizona or Utah, Ottawa, Seattle, Calgary, New Jersey are the other teams here that fall in our top 10. Now, of course, there is some trade conditions around some of these picks, so clearly these teams have the option to keep their pick if it falls under certain guidelines. So right now it's looking like Calgary and New Jersey will be able to hold on to their selections and then bump out a year when those picks get moved. So for right now, that's our order. Let's now hop into the mock draft part of the video, and I'll give you my selections for these teams. Selecting first overall, the very fortunate team here, the Anaheim Ducks. They would definitely take Macklin Celebrini. We know he's going first overall. I don't think there's any doubts about that. Celebrini will be a franchise-altering player. Imagine him mixed in with the other young Ducks talented players. Like they just had Cutter Gauthier make his debut. You have Mason McTavish. You've got lots of other young, exciting players there in Anaheim. I do wonder if they were fortunate enough to get a guy like Celebrini, if that'll once again have an impact here on the future of Trevor Zegras. But Celebrini's more of a complete player than Connor Bedard. I don't know if he'll have the offensive upside. Time will tell, but he still projects to be a really, really good first overall pick. It would be a phenomenal landing here for the Ducks. Next, at second overall, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, and I have them taking Russian-born forward Ivan Demidov. I think Demidov could be a excellent complementary piece to work with Connor Bedard on his wing. This guy, the only big question is how long will he stay in Russia? How long will the Blackhawks have to be patient here and wait to get him over? But you look at the Minnesota Wild with Kaprizov. They waited, they were patient, it paid off. This guy is putting up phenomenal offensive numbers in the Russian league. Absolutely terrifically gifted winger. I think he'd be a great option on Bedard's wing down the road here. So to me, he's the best player in the draft after Celebrini, and I think the Blackhawks can be patient enough to wait as they continue for this rebuild. So it all makes sense to me that this would be a great landing spot for him. Selecting third overall in this simulation was the unlucky San Jose Sharks. I have them taking defenseman Artem Levshinov, the big defenseman, right shot, 200 pounds, 6'2", Russian-born, playing in the U.S. at the Michigan State University in the NCAA. Big right shot, mobile defenseman. It's considered to be a lot less risky than a lot of the other European players. Obviously, already playing in the States, so might be more likely to make it to the NHL a little bit faster. Plus, he's got the size and strength and ability that he shouldn't be too far off from being ready anyhow. Levshinov to me would be a great addition here for the Sharks. They need a bit of everything. And to me, he's the best player available at that slot. So it makes sense that they select him. Selecting fourth overall, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I have another defenseman here, Russian-born defenseman Anton Silya being the pick. This guy is massive. He has potential to be a real beast in the NHL. 6'7", 211 pounds. He's the type of player that teams want when they're going for championships with that kind of size and strength back there on the blue line. Again, Russian-born, so we don't know exactly when he's going to make it or come to the NHL, but certainly a player who's not known for his offense. He's really more of a defensive specialist and could be a big piece on the blue line for Columbus or any team who's lucky enough to get him here in the top part of the draft. Up next at number 5, we have the Montreal Canadiens. I have them taking here Caden Lidstrom. Now he's the big forward is going to be a nice pickup for Montreal. There's a lot of defensemen that could go in this spot too, depending on what rankings you go by and what your opinions are of some of these players. There's a variety of picks that would fit in the 5, 6, 7 range, with Lidstrom being in the mix with a bunch of the other D. Montreal is already loaded with D, and you might be able to make the argument of going for best player available, but I think, there's an argument that he might be that guy anyway. We'll see, but they could use some size, strength, and everything at the forward position. So to me, it makes a ton of sense here. Lidstrom projects to be a big centerman, 6'3", 210 right now. Could obviously end up, getting bigger as well. Obviously, he had a bit of a down season. The only reason he's ranked a little lower in some cases because he missed a lot of time this year, only limiting to 36 games in the regular season. So obviously, that's not what he was hoping for, but the size and the talent's there. He scored 27 goals in 32 games. Actually, 36 games was his total counting playoffs, not just regular season. So to me, he's a great option, a big center down the middle, something the Habs have been looking for a long time. At number 6, we have the former Arizona Coyotes franchise, now known as the Utah Hockey Club, at least for the time being. And I have them selecting from the University of Denver, Zeev Buium. Buium has had a phenomenal year at the University of Denver. Of course, they just won the national championship. That school has had tremendous success. He was a big contributor to that. 6 feet tall, 183 right now. Left shot defenseman, dynamic with offensive talents. Put up 50 points in 42 games. Very, very talented defenseman. Obviously, he's a player that can log big minutes. Played a lot on the route to the national championship. I think he was logging about 30 minutes a game there in the Frozen Four. So certainly great, a great addition to any blue line. This Utah team, formerly the Coyotes, we know are going to want to make some big moves, and I think Zeev could be a big piece to their blue line here down the road because that's one area they're lacking. As of right now, they don't have any NHL defensemen signed for next year. They'll end up keeping at least a few of the guys that are there now, but it's got to be their biggest area of need when you take a look at, the group of forwards, Gunter, Cooley, Michelli. They've got a good crop of young forwards. They really need to add on the back end. Number 7 overall, we now have the Ottawa Senators, and I have them selecting Zane Parekh. Now, the Senators are going to have an option here to fix one of their weaknesses on their team, and it's right shot defenseman. They're going to have a likely, and we'll say likely because we don't know how it's going to go 100% here, a good shot to get a variety of right shot D, whether it's Parekh or Yakimchuk or one of these top right Ds, but they are going to draft the best player available, whoever they feel. But I do think that the odds of that player for them being a right D are pretty darn good. Parekh is a 6 foot tall, 178 pound, very dynamic defenseman. One of the more dynamic defensemen we've seen come into the OHL in quite some time. Certainly had a big season this year, putting up 96 points in 66 games. He's a phenomenal player that the Sens could put on the right side of their blue line and be a great puck mover and offensive contributor. Of course, they need somebody who can play stronger D as well, so they may defer to a different type of D, but Parekh would be a great option for them on the right side. At number 8, we now have the Seattle Kraken, and I have another right shot D going here from the WHL, and that's Carter Yakimchuk. Now, if the draft lottery went the way that it did here today, I could see, like I said, the Sens maybe taking Yakimchuk and these two D maybe switching spots. Like Yakimchuk's going to be a little bit of a different D than you're getting in Parekh. Yakimchuk's a little bigger, 6'3", 195. He's, equal number of goals, basically. He had 71-point season, 30 goals. Can be more physical, though. It's going to give you a little different dynamic in your defensive zone. So it kind of depends on what you want. But Yakimchuk has the potential here. He's projected to be a top 4 defenseman that can play a good amount of minutes and contribute at both ends of the ice. So to me, he's a great pickup here and would be great for the Kraken as they move forward here trying to get back to being a playoff team. Obviously, Yakimchuk will be a year or two before he starts contributing, but he's a good pick for them. Next up here at number 9, we have the Calgary Flames. And obviously, they're going to take Iginla, right? If Iginla's on the board and the Flames are picking, they have to take him. And not just because of his name. The kid's a heck of a player. 47 goals, 84 points in 64 games, playing in the Western League. I'm sure they've seen him plenty. 6 feet tall, 185. Only going to continue to, probably fill out, get a little bit bigger that way, and at the same time continue rounding out his game. Plays a little differently than his dad, but, obviously Jerome had a long-lasting effect in Calgary, and I think the Flames fans would go nuts if they could get his son here. So we'll see. But if Iginla's on the board, I think the Flames are going to take him. My only question is, could he go higher than this? I think it's possible, and we won't rule that out just yet. But as of right now, I have him going to Calgary. At number 10, we have the New Jersey Devils. And like the other teams ahead of them, like Ottawa and Seattle, they have an opportunity here to kind of add a big help to their blue line because it needs it. And that would be Sam Dickinson from the London Knights in the OHL. Dickinson is going to be a little bit of a different style defenseman again. They all have some unique qualities. Dickinson, again, another real good option, though. 6'3", 194. Put up 70 points, including 18 goals and 52 assists. In London, he's probably going to still play another year, junior. Obviously, he's a left shot. To me, he's going to probably be a top 10 defenseman. There's going to be a run on D, and it really boils down to how all these different teams feel about them. But there's right now, they all look really solid, and it's hard to say that you can really go wrong, per se. Over time, we'll need to see how they develop to see really who made the right pick. But Dickinson to New Jersey, to me, makes a ton of sense here. So those are my top 10 picks for that draft lottery, the way it was simulated here today. Let me know your picks as well, and who are you rooting for? Who do you think deserves Celebrini the most? Who needs that first overall selection more than the other clubs? And let me know what you think of some of the top prospects that are bound to be selected here in the early part of the NHL's first round of the 24 NHL draft. So, of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. There'll be plenty more content covering the 2024 NHL draft, as well as all the other news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.